Hi everyone, welcome again. This is the Spring Security class. In this video, we are going to discuss all about the Spring Security. The topics that we are going to discuss in this video are: first, we will start with the user and name and password authentication. In that, we will discuss the form login, basic authentication, in-memory authentication, and then we'll come to JDBC. Also, we will discuss about the JWT token authentication. In the last of the course, we will create a React application and we'll integrate the React application with this Spring Boot, and we'll create a authentication with JWT token and we'll pass to another APIs. So let's start with this course. So let's create a new project here by clicking on File and go to New and Spring Starter Project. You can also use Spring Initializer and then you can import that project in your workspace. And let's define the group and the name here. So for now I'm giving this name demo app, and okay, the package name you can define accordingly. Click on next, and here you can add all the dependencies. So I'm using Spring Web, H2 database, JPA, and security. So for now I'm adding these 4 dependencies, and you can use a Spring Boot version also. So I'm using 2.4.5 and you can use any other version. Okay, after adding the dependencies, then click on Finish to create a new project. A new project has been created. Let's explore that project. If you open pom.xml, so you are able to see these are all the dependencies that we have added. Okay, in the source main Java, we have this package and we have one class here. So this is the main class. Whenever we run a Spring Boot application, so this class will be run, and here there is a main method. Okay, before proceeding further, let's first run this application. To run this application, click on Run As Spring Boot app. Okay, so if you see the logs, because we have added the Spring Security, by default, generate a new key for the password. Okay, the application is running on port 8080. Let's open a Chrome or any browser to test it. When we check on port 8080, we're able to see here a form, and in login page it's asking username and password. So whenever we add a Spring Security in the project, by default all the URLs will be restricted, so you are not able to access any URL in the application. Okay, let's use this user here and the password. So this is the password. So now we are able to access this application. Now we'll come to our main topic. We have to add the Spring Security in this application. Let's assume this is your application and you have to add a Spring Security to this. So you already have added the dependencies, but you want to define your own rules. So for example, I want to restrict some of the URLs, and I have to bypass some URLs to give it the access to public. So for that you have to create another class. So you are going to extend the classes that are there in the Spring Security project. So let's create here a one class and give the name here security configuration. You can define any name here. Okay, and we'll define this as a configuration. Okay, and enable. web security, and we'll extend web security configure adapter. Okay, web security configure is a abstract class, and in this there are various methods. For example, let's see configure HTTP security. So if you see this, override this method to configure the HTTP security. Okay, so by default, if you have not extend this class, so this method it will be used. Okay, so because of that, when we are using running the application and going through the local host, so you are able to see the form. So that is because of this. Okay, okay, we have seen the web security configure adapter. Now let's comes to this class, and we are going to implement some of the methods by clicking here to go to source, implement methods, add for now add configure HTTP security, and we need one more method, the authentication manager. Okay, click on OK, and let's add one more method here, configure authentication manager builder. Okay, so let's define here. For now, we don't require this method. We have to focus only on these two methods right now. Okay, so here let's add here HTTP dot any request any request. Yeah. So what I did here, I've added here any request that comes to this application to permit it all. Okay, let's uh, relaunch this application. You able to see when I am opening localhost 8080, I'm not able to see that form login page because I've added here the rule HTTP authorized request dot any request dot permit all. Okay, so I'm bypassing the security and I'm giving the public access to all the requests that are coming to this application. Okay, so let's open a new browser here and test it again. Okay, so you're able to see 40 not found because we didn't have added any controller here. That's why we are getting this 404 message, because on the there is no any on slash context there is no any controller or anything to handle this request. Okay, let's come to our application now. Here we have comment it, and we are giving here http dot authorize request dot any request dot authenticated. Okay, so we are defining rule here. Any request that come to this application, it should be authenticated. Let's again restart this application. Okay, so if you're able to see, there is some unexpected error. If we go to inspect, click on next. So this is we are getting now different error. This is some forbidden error. Okay, we'll come to this why we are not getting 401 and why we are getting the 403 error. So here now let's define here. Now we have to use what we have seen earlier. We will go through the basic authentication, the form login, and then we'll come to in-memory and JDBC authentication. Okay. So we are only focusing on the authentication. For the authorization, we will later come on to this. Okay. So let's add here http dot form login. Okay. So let's restart this application. Okay, so 800 is already using. Okay, let's use to stop this application and we'll restart it. Now if you're able to see, I'm able to see the form login page. Okay, now here we have added here the two roles, http authorize request dot any request authenticated and http form login. Now we'll define our username and password to do the in-memory authentication. So here we do auth dot in-memory authentication and dot with user. For now I'm giving some default user dot password. Let's define here the password -123. Okay, authorities. Let's define authorities user and admin. We have to grant the authentications, but to keep it simple, I'm defining like this. Okay, let's again restart this application. Because we have now customized it, we have extended the web security and configure adapter, and we are not calling the super method here. So you're able to see we are not getting any generated key, a password basically. So let's go to again that. So here I'm getting this, and let's use this username and password. We are trying this, but it should not be work. Let's see. So if we go to the our application, it's saying us there is no password encoder map for the ID null. So whatever the password we are defining here, that should be encoded. So Simpling security, what it want, the password that we are passing through it, it should be in an encoded format. So let's define here admin password encoder. Third, I have written the password encoder and return bcrypt password encoder. Okay. So let's what we did here. We have added a bean here. The password encoder is an interface, and we are returning an instance of bcrypt password encoder. So once here we get this instance, and then we'll encoding our password with this. Okay, this is our password. We are now again restarting this application. Okay, let's use here user test 123. Okay, let's see here. in the network. We have to give name here for the and test at 1 2 3. So here we are able to log into the application because there is no any controller is there, so we are getting 404 error. But if we see the login request, it is authenticated. We have covered the in-memory authentication and also the form login. Now we are going to the basic authentication. So what's the basic authentication is basically? So for example, here I am going to give here localhost HTTP and authorization. We'll give type here basic auth. So basic auth, we have give here the username and password. In basic authentication, it create a token, username, colon, password, and encode in the 64-bit encoded format, and it will send to the application. Okay, so if you are see here, when we are sending this request, that keep it get or post anything. Okay, and when we are sending it, so we are able to see we are getting that form login page. Okay, and in the headers we are getting this basic authentication token. Okay, so why we're getting this form login page, please sign in. Okay, this is because we didn't have enable us basic authentication in our Spring application. So to do that, we have to add here in this method http dot http basic. Okay, so this will do the basic authentication. Test it. Let's add a controller here, a basic controller. Basically it's a class, define it app controller. In the package controllers, and we are defining this class as a REST controller to support the get post methods. And here we do request mapping with slash only, and we'll create one get mapping method and give this public string test and done hello spring security. Okay, so let's again restart this application. Now go back to the Postman. So if you are see here, earlier we are getting the form, but now we have added a controller, and also we have added the HTTP basic role in the our security configuration class. Now when we are going to it and send request, so we are getting 401 unauthorized. Okay, so let's go here, and if you see the password, so password is not correct, and test it 1 2 3. Okay, now send it hello spring security. So this is the basic authentication. In some application, what we do, uh, we pass username and password as an basic authentication. So for each request, we have to send this basic authentication, the username and password, and then we are able to fetch that resource. But that's not a good choice for us to send every time the username and password in each request. So what we will do here, when we are logging to the application, that time we will provide the username and password. Then it will generate a token for us, the barrier token, basically that will come into the JWT authorization, then that token will pass here, okay, in the headers, same header authorization and barrier that token, then we'll send this request and that will do the authentication for us. Okay, so we'll come that into the later when we'll come to the authorization, but now we have to proceed it with the JDBC authentication. Now we are proceeding to start with JDBC authentication. For the JDBC authentication, let's first discuss the classes or the interfaces that we are going to implement to complete the JDBC in our JDBC authentication in our application. So I am opening these two interfaces, the user details. A user detail is basically an interface that have these various methods, get password, get username, and we have an get authorities. And there is one more an interface user detail service that we are going to use in our application. You have to create a class, the user, or you can give anything name. I'm giving here user class and I will implement this. Okay, first let's move this one class to different package. We'll map to this package entities. So we have an here user class and we'll implement this user details. And let's define this table. We have to implement some of the methods that are present in user details interface. We have added all that methods. And here we have to define all the fields that we are going to store in this table. Let's add that. So these all are the fields that we require. So I have added all that fields. Now here if you see we have method here, the get authorities. Now we have stored, assume we have stored one user row in this table and this user have to map with some authorities. If you are not using any authorities, if you are not maintaining anything, either it should be a user role or an admin role, anything, you can ignore this step. But if you want that, then we have to create one more entity here. Let's add that class and give it name authority. And we will implement this granted authority. We have to implement same the method that's present in the granted authority. I've added all this field and here we have to return the role code. And also let's create the setter and getter methods. Okay, now we are fine with this table authority and let's define the name also here, table. Let's come to the user table here, user class and give it name authority. Now I'm going to map the authority table with the user table and here we can give like this. One user can map with many authorities. Many to many. So in the user class and with the authority, I'm creating one more table, joining the table or user authority. This is the cross table you can consider basically, and have given the many to many relationship, and have joined the column with this ID. So this user table have the ID and inverse join column with same ID. Okay. So we will store in this table of user authority the user ID and the authority ID. Now we'll return these authorities, and here we'll return the password, this dot username, this will return in all these methods. Let's create some more getter and setter that we require while creating a user instance. The tables that entities we the entities we already created, the user and authorities. Next, we needed a service class that will check that user is exist in the database. If it exists, then it will return that user to the application and we are able to log in. And if it's not, it will throw some exception. Okay, I'm going to add in one more class, our service class basically. I give it name here, custom user service. Defined in package services. This class I will implement with user detail service. In the user detail service, if you remember, we have one method load user by username, and we will create one interface here with that will be basically the repository layer, user details repository, and we will extend this with JPA repository. We'll give the model here user and ID will be long type. And by username and will pass string username, right? And it will return user. In the service class, will automate the repository and will null double equal user. Otherwise, we'll return user. Okay, so this is basically the user service class, and we'll give the here at service. Okay, So we have now security configuration class here. Will auto-wide custom user detail service. And here we define auth dot user detail service dot password encoder, and we define the password encoder here. So this is we added here for database authentication, and the above one is in memory. In production, we'll delete this line. We don't need it, and the basic authentication will be run with this command authentication.user detail service. Okay, so let's add some default data for testing. Method to create an authority. Let's add here list of authority. Add a list authority dot add. We'll add one authority user. Here, admin. Admin role, and let's give this create authority and create authority. Okay, so now we have user let's add user dot set username. So I've added here the set username, first name and the last name. For adding the user, for let auto void the password encoder. If you remember, we have created a bean in the configuration class, and also will auto void user repository. Okay. So here we have user dot set password encoder dot encode that gives the at 123, and user dot set enable true user. Okay, so we have created some dummy data here, and we will test at the runtime when we'll start this application. Earlier we have added here the H2 database. Now it's time to enable this database. We'll go to here and we'll do that H2 dot console dot enable true. Okay, we are going to run this application now. Application is started on port 8080, and this is the H2 database console that have generated at the runtime the database available at this path. To configure this, if you have to give the custom URL, we'll give string dot data source dot URL, and we'll give here text. Okay, let's relaunch this application again. Now we'll open the browser and we'll test the username and the password, the dummy values that we are given in the main class. Let's open again the 8080 URL, and we'll give here the username that we have defined the dummy values. Okay, it's working fine. And same if we try the memory ones. So the in memory are and test at 1 2 3. So that also working fine. Now we'll open the H2 console. If you are going to connect, it will give you a forbidden error. So for that, we need to do something in the configuration class, the security configuration basically. We will open this security configuration class, and here we will let define the new rule. To console dot permit all dot any request dot authenticated. Okay, and let's give HTTP basic here, and we'll remove this one. Okay, for H2 console, we need to add one more rule here. HTTP dot CSRF dot disable dot headers dot frame options disable. Okay. We'll restart this application. Open the browser and we'll refresh the screen and go to connect. So now it's able to open the console. We have created the three tables, if you remember, the two tables basically, and this one table is basically for the cross reference, and here there is one table here. So if you see here, the data is created on a first name, and this one is the user key, that is the password basically, and this is the username. And one in the authority table, if we see, there will be two rows. Okay, both user authorities. Okay, there are no any rows are present in this table. That is because, let's go to that our code in the main class. Here we have not set it anything in the authority. Well, so let's define here user dot set authorities authority list. So we don't have to again create that authority in the authority table. Once we insert here, it will automatically insert in the authority table also. Again, relaunch the application. Refresh the screen. Both user authority So there are some rows there, and in the authority table there are two rows, user and admin. And if we check here the auth user details, we have this one. Let's use this. And the password was at 123. So it's working fine. Okay, so basically next we are going to start with the JWT. Okay, JWT, or we can say authorization. Authorization is basically what does the authorization has means. So we have the user has login, we check the identity of the user, then we have granted some permission to access that resources. So for that we will do that authorization. In authorization there are different methods to do the authorization. Okay, for example, when you are calling APIs, you can pass a username and password, but in that you have to pass the username and password every time. So what we will do here, we generate a runtime some a string of token. Okay, in that there will be permissions will be there, and in with that we can do the authorization on the server. So let's do that. Before that, I want to discuss with you the application that we are going to create in this course. So the application that I have created here, it's a React application. This Spring Boot security is not related with this, but for showing the user interface to do the authentication, I have created here a React application. Don't get confused here if you don't know the React. Okay, so this is a very simple application. What you have to do, so the link will be I will give in the description of the video, and you can check out that code. So when you check out the code, you just have to type npm install in the code repository on the root project folder, and then after that put the npm start. So it will start the application. Once the application is started, you can check on localhost 3000. So this is the application that will be look like this. Okay, so here it's a login authentication form, and we can give here the username and passwords. So to test this application, you have to start a server in your local for a Spring Boot app. We will come on that also later. So first let's just go through this, what we have created and what we're going to create in the last of the course. So here I'm passing a random some password and a random username, and when I'm clicking the login button, it's showing authentication failed. Now let's type again the correct one, and also let's open a inspect tool here. I just want to show you how the authentication will be work with React and the Spring Boot. So when I'm passing the username and password, and when I'm clicking login button, so you'll able to see here this is the dashboard page. Okay, and if you say in the APIs, in the first API, the auth login, it's passing the username and password. Then it will create a JWT token, and then that JSON web token we have to pass in all the APIs, so it will be authenticate on the server. Without passing this token, it will not accept and will throw an 401 exception. Okay, in the response you will get the 401 unauthorized. So this is main basically agenda, to create a JSON web token, and then that token we have to pass in all the REST APIs. And when you click on add user, so add user will only enable when, or it can only display when the user has admin access. Otherwise this button will not be visible. And when you click on the logout button, you will be log out this application. And if you are going to again go to the dashboard, it will again redirect to you this page, because you already have logout and your session or your token has cleared from your client from the browser memory. Okay, so next we are going to discuss, or we are going to start with the JWT implementation. We have already discussed the in-memory authentication, the basic authentication. Basic authentication, we just passing the username and password, and it's creating a token, basic token, and it will do the authentication. Then we have discussed the JDBC authentication also. So next it's time to start with the JWT implementation. So let's do that. To start with the implementation of JWT authentication, we need a dependency here for the JSON Web Token. This is the dependency that I have added, and let's save the pom.xml. After that, we need to create some classes in the package in your project. So you can create anywhere. I am creating in the config folder. We need two classes here. One class is the authentication filter. I have given name JWT authentication filter. And one more class I need, that I give it name JWT token helper. JWT token helper class will be helpful. It will be behave like a util class. And I will insert some static methods here, or some methods that will be helpful while creating a token or do the or validating a token. Okay. And in the authentication filter class, I'm going to extend this with once per request filter. So once per request filter is basically we have a method here, do filter internal, and for each request we'll request this filter to do the task. So whatever the code we have written here, for each request it will be execute. Okay. In the JWT token helper, I need some methods. So that method I'm going to add here. Okay. These all are the fields or the method that I need in this class. So I just paused the video and created these methods because it will take so much time to create one by one method, but I will go to explain this all method. And first let us give here @ component. Okay, so here there is an app name field. Okay, the app name that we are uh, defining in the token, for which app this token has been issued. And there will be a secret key that will be helpful when you are signing the token or you are validating that token. And there will be an expire time also, and the signature algorithm that we are using while generating that token. There is one method, get all claims from the token. To get all the claims in the token, we have written here this method. There will be method to get the username, and then generate token method is there. When we need to generate the token, we will call this method. And here generate expiration date. Okay, and validate token is token expired, so this method is there. Same get expired time, when you need to check is the token is expired or not, or to get the time when it will be expired, so it will give you that date from the token. Okay, and get issue date also is there, get token is there, and get auth header form header is there. So these are the method that will be used while doing the implementation or while we creating the token. Let's come to this class here, and we need some fields here, some instances. Let's add that user detail service. If you remember where we have used the user detail service, so user detail service we have used while we are creating our custom user detail service in JDBC authentication. So it will give that instance here, and we need JWT token helper instance also. Okay. And here we'll write one constructor. In this constructor we have user, will pass user detail service, and user details service. Okay, and also we need your token helper, and in this method we have to first we need a token. Okay, let's define as string auth token. Okay, and auth token will get from a request. Okay, so first we have here a JWT token helper. In JWT token helper we have written get auth header from header request. Okay, and here we're passing the request, so we'll get the authentication token here. Okay, we don't need this. Let's give here string. Now if null is not equal to auth token, define a string username, and we'll use same JWT token helper dot get username from token, and we'll pass here the auth token. Now it will write if null is not equal to username. So if null is not equal to username, we'll get here the user details. Okay, the user details, and with the help of user details service we'll get load user by username, and we'll pass the username here. Okay, now we have a username user details instance. The user detail we have used in the user entity, if you remember, and we'll do the JWT token helper dot validate token, and in this we'll pass the auth token and user details. Okay, so when if the token is validated, then next we have to add here user name password authentication token we have created here. Then same like this, here we have need to pass the principal. So principal in our side we have user details, let's pass here null, and we'll pass here user details dot get authorities. Okay, it will create a username password authentication token instance. If you check this class is extending the abstract authentication token. Okay, so then next, so in this username password authentication token we will set details. As we pass web new web details, web authentication details, and request. Okay, and we'll get the security context folder, get context dot set authentication username password authentication. Okay, let's write here this authentication to keep it simple. Here like this same. Okay, and here we have an if condition, then we have a filter chain dot do filter, we pass request response. Okay, so this is basically we have to do here. Next will come in the security configuration class. In the security configuration class, let's add all the dependencies that we require. Let's auto-write that link JWT token helper, and I need one more. And add auto-write. So let's create one more class here that we needed. Give it name class rest authentication entry point. We have to implement this class with authentication entry point, and there will be one method in this class, this method. So here it will throw an exception whenever there is an unauthorized user. So response dot send error. In the send error we do http servlet response dot unauthorized and auth exception dot get message. Okay, let's give this as a component. Come to the security configuration class and auto-wide that as well. Private authentication entry point. Authentication entry point. Okay, we need to change this configuration as well by commenting this out. Let's rewrite again. HTTP dot session management dot session create policy. We have to session. So here you can give stateless, never, always, anything. So stateless for now we are giving, and exception handling dot authentication entry point. Okay, authorized request dot, let's copy this one, request. Okay, here we have to add filter before. This will pass new job authentication filter, and here we pass custom user detail service and your token. We have user service, this one, user service. As well here we have your token helper, and here we have username password authentication filter dot class. Okay, and let's comment it this out, because in the request we need to add one more here. Let's add dot and http options dot permit all, then dot any request authenticated. Okay, let's save this. So this is the change that we need to add here, and now we are going to add that method as well, that we have deleted earlier. Session manager being, and let's write this as an, okay. These are the changes that we needed in the JOT implementation. Let's what we are going to do now, restarting the application, and let's check so everything is working fine. Spring Boot app. Okay, so there is something error, jot auth.app. In the configuration JWT token helper, we have added this configuration properties. We need to define in the application properties as well. Here we write JWT.auth.app Spring security app. Yeah, so application is running fine on port 8080. But if you see in the configuration file, we have disabled the HTTP basic and form login as well. We are going to create a new controller here. The class will be authentication controller. REST controller and request mapping API v1. Let's give at raw solution, because we are going to check with the React application as well, and they are running on different port, but it will treat as different local host as well. Okay, there will be different. Okay, we add here post mapping. So post controller will be auth login. We'll write here public response entity login, return none. Let's add two more classes here. One class will be authentication request, add private string username and private string password. Setter we don't need. Okay, one more class we need to add, authentication response. So we can give here login response. Add this one in the package response. Here private string token, and let's add here and getter we don't need in this. Okay, in the authentication controller, now here we need some of the classes, some instances that we're going to auto-write. First is authentication manager, add request body, and authentication request. We'll create here authentication. Okay, in the Spring security there will be authentication equal dot authenticate, and here new username password authentication token. Here we'll write authentication request dot get username, authentication, request of get password. Okay. We are going to make it final because we are not going to change this once we'll get the request. And let's security context holder dot get context dot set authentication, and we'll pass this one. Okay, now we'll get once this is, if this the user is authenticated, then we'll get user, the user that we have created. We need to use that one. User equal to user will use provide with user detail service. Here we have an authentication dot get principal. Let's create a token now. String JWT token, generate token with user dot get username, login response. Response dot set token your token. Okay, here that. So this is the method we have written here of login, and what we are doing here, we are getting username and password, then we are writing in the security context holder. Then once this is authenticated, we'll get the user entity object, and then we'll create a JWT token, and JWT token will get given the response. Let's restart this application. Postman, or you can use any other client that you have. Always showing some exception here, authentication manager. Let's do that in the security configuration class, and this method and again restart the application. So now application is started on port 8080. Let's open control apps. In the body we have to pass order of JSON application. This is unauthorized request. In the security configuration class, we need to permit this request also. So to do that, here we can add This is the username and password. Showing not acceptable. Let's check. So I've added here the method get token, and now we can check that the authentication token. When we're passing this username and password, and here it will create a token. Okay, so now this token, what we will do, we will use in other APIs, and we can get the data. Let's test it out. Again, open a controller here. Let's first kill this application. Okay, here we'll add get mapping. Auth dot user info. Earlier we have first authenticated the user, okay, and then we have created a generate token here method, and we're passing the username of that method. If you see in the JWT token helper, in the generate token, so this is the methods that we are calling: set issued, app name, subject name, and issued at, expire time, and also signing with. Okay, okay, here we have user info, and we'll get this public response entity, get user info. We'll add here principal in the header method user, you can say, because when the user is authenticated, so in the user it will be come here. Okay, and now what we'll do here, we'll take a user obj, and then user will use let's use the user detail service dot load by username. So we have here user dot get name. It will give us the user object. Let's add cast to this object. Now in the response we will add one more class, user info. In the user info we'll add private some of the fields. We have added some of these fields in the user info class. Let's go again to that, and here we'll create user info object and user info. We'll set all the details, first name, last name, and the authorities in this user info dot set first name, user dot get user obj dot get first name. Okay, and we'll return same like this our user info response. Let's restart this application. We'll go to here, Okay, so let's test this out. It's working fine. Then get user info. Okay. For example, now we are not going to pass any authorization header. Let's execute this. So we'll get unauthorized. And when we are going to pass the authorization header, copy the token from here. So you're getting unauthorized user. This is because okay, so when we are passing the authorization token, we are getting this unauthorized exception. When we are getting this type of exception, we need to debug the code. Let's come here. This is the JWT authentication filter. Let's add here a breakpoint and again send that request. Okay, so for example, when the request come to this, now go to next. Okay, so auth token username. Okay, so here in the token there will be embedded here user. Okay, go to next. That's returning username null. Okay. Oh, okay. Here the auth token was barrier like this. So there is one more method. Get generate token or get token and request, because we need only a token. You know, it's fine. So now we are getting a user response. This is all about the JWT authentication, or we can say the authorization when it comes to API to pass that header. What we are doing here, we are going first we are sending the auth login request and it will generate authentication token, and that token we will use in all other APIs. So here we'll see. Okay, and if you want to check this token, you have to go to jot.io. In jot.io you can put a token here. Please, you see the payload data. So this token has issued on 2 May and this is the time, and it will be expired after 1 hour. Okay, so this is a token, and once you don't have a secret key, you can't validate this token. And also you can add the roles, the permissions that you are going to grant to particular user. You can add that as well in the token. This is just we are using a secret key. In jot where it comes to a security, you can also generate token using the private key and then use it as public key. Okay, next, what we have earlier discussed about the React project. So I'm giving you just a walkthrough. So what in the React we did, so we have here some pages, the components. We have a login page here, and in login page we created one form, username and password we are keeping there. Okay. If you know React, then you can understand this code very easily. It's very simple application, and even if you don't know React, don't worry, this is very simple example. And you have an Spring Boot APIs, and you can create your own application in HTML, or you can use Angular as well or any other framework, and you can integrate simply in that. It will not take much harder time. if you understand very easily this one, the JWT implementation and the Spring security, then for the integration it's very easy for you. To wrap up this course, we have started to write first a configuration class. In the configuration class we have added password encoder, and we did the in-memory authentication. We have added our own rules that basically to define the security of our application. And we come to the JDBC. In JDBC we have created the entity, the user entity, and we have created the authority as well. So we have mapped the user with authority, and we have created the controller as well. In the JWT authentication we have created these classes, and we have created the request and response classes as well. Then we have tested on a postman how the JWT we will use. When we are passing the username and password, it will create a authentication token, and that token we will use in the other APIs. And also we have a React application to test that APIs. If you are able to see this, okay, let's open that again. So this is our login username. Let's write here we are going to pass the username and password. Let's open the inspect tool as well. So if you see here, there will be first option call. That's why we are permitting these calls, and we have then the actual request, and we are passing username and password. Then we are calling the user info. In user info we'll get the user response, all the roles that are assigned to that user. Let's go to the application, and here comment this one. Again restart this application. So application is started. Let's log out to this. Again refresh this. We use one and password. If you see, add user button is not visible here because now this is a normal user, and he has done that this user doesn't have the admin access. When you're clicking on log out button, it will log out. Okay, so this is all about the Spring security. I hope this course will be useful for you. Either you are a professional like working in a company, or you are a student. You can check out this course. This course will be available in the GitHub, and I will provide the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and yeah, we will be available for another video in some days.